Hey, we're live.
I didn't see. There we go. Hey, Casey, it's Ross. Flat to the bone. Just kidding. Hey, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and welcome to MFSN's The Hub with Week 6
7.
fantasy football. Week 7 already. Week 7. Why did I get Week 6? Wrong information.
Because Week 6 was so bad, we want to redo.
My producer told me it was Week 6. I'll talk to him later. He's just an idiot. So what we'll talk about today is we're going to talk about waiver wire pickups. There's 6 teams, Casey Scheinfold, that are on bye weeks.
That's
so
true.
We're just getting into this quickly. There's 6 teams, so a lot of people are hurt. A lot of people are not playing this coming week. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about who you should kind of strategize, who you should pick up. I don't know. We'll talk about every position, just in case if your quarterback went down and you're minus C.J. Stroud this week because of the bye week. I don't know. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about baseball. The Phillies. No, we're not allowed to talk baseball. But
we can still say the Phillies and the Rangers look like they're on a collision course.
Yeah, the Phillies and Rangers World Series. I feel it. But I never count Houston out, Casey Scheinfold. Houston always has a shot. And you're a Yankee fan. You know that because they always beat you.
In the playoffs,
playoffs. Who cares about regular
playoffs?
Season? No one cares about regular season, Casey Scheinfold. So let's talk waiver wire. Any questions about trades or who you should pick up or anything else? Don't be afraid to text us, or I guess it's not texting, it's to write us on the bottom where it says chat. We'll take your messages and we will put them on the screen and we'll answer them. So we had a big week last week, Casey. Let's talk about a little bit. 2 huge upsets. 49ers going down in Cleveland.
The 2 NFC favorites.
I watched that game. Last second field goal missed by the 49er. Kind of sad. Oh, well, part of football. Big injury. And I don't wish injury on anybody, but we said that Christian McCaffrey is just on a collision course to get hurt, and he got hurt. I don't know how long. I have no idea. We'll find out tomorrow. But leading to that, it leads up to our first waiver wire pickup. Casey, why don't you tell us who we should pick up because of CMC's out?
Well, short term, I'm picking up Jordan Mason.
Okay.
He got a majority of the carries after McCaffrey was hurt. Elijah Mitchell, the other one, who was listed as the backup and was more involved in the first half with spelling McCaffrey some, ended with -3 yards, and Mason finished with 27 and a touchdown. Mitchell's coming off a knee injury, right? It's his first game back from the knee. I don't think they're going to throw him right to the Wolves yet. I think he's going to be on a pitch count for a couple weeks. And so if it's a 2 to 3 week injury for McCaffrey or a 1 to 2 week injury, I think Jordan Mason's the guy. He's the way to go. And let's be honest, Kyle Shanahan is too smart for his own good sometimes, and he likes to throw curveballs. So he would put Jordan Mason out there just to prove he's smarter than all of us.
He will. And, with him, it's like, you just can't trust him when it comes to running backs. That's a proven fact throughout the past 3 seasons. I mean, he's always gone with the dark horse. This guy getting more carries.
Yeah, it was Trey Sermon one year. It was.
So I think Mitchell will get some handoffs. I think they'll share it, and I think they're going to have a pretty well. They're in Minnesota, right? They play Sunday night. Is that the game? So Minnesota's defense is horrible, so it should be a good game for the running backs. So, as we said, it's a good time to pick them up. And let's talk about the other huge upset. The Eagles, undefeated. Casey, you're from Pennsylvania. I know you're not an Eagle fan.
I am
but
not.
Them playing the Jets, I had a bad feeling about that game. I mean, I did. On a betting side, I did not touch it with the 10-foot pole. I just knew it was kind of a trap game. And the Jets played great defense, and Hurts has not looked great the whole season. I know they're 5-1, but I just don't feel he's like.
Well, they have an elite defense.
I mean, their defense is really good,
and DeAndre Swift has been good. Don't tell
DeAndre Swift is good, and you know who's in a disappearing act, and I probably would not start him in some of my leagues. Is Devontae Smith? I mean, he like a disappearing act. I mean, he's not around, Casey Scheinfold.
Yeah, he might be one I would target, though, as a trade, like a buy low candidate, because we've seen this guy catch 19 balls or something last year. It was crazy. I mean, it's not that he got worse. It's just the offense isn't clicking right now. And if it starts clicking in the second half of the season, you could get a monster at a buy low price.
I think it's also A.J. Brown chirping away in Hurts' ear saying, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. And when Hurts hears that, he probably says, okay, I'll give you the ball, just shut up. And then Devontae Smith kind of disappears. A disappearing act. It's amazing. It's magic. We do here on FFSN. If you want a player to disappear, just tell us his name and we'll make him disappear.
That's right.
But you know what? It's been, let's talk about our cover guy, Devin Singletary. I put him on this week, Casey, and I watched him play. And Pierce has been horrible this season. They're starting running back. I think Singletary. It's a bye week, so don't pick him up this week and think you're going to start him Sunday. He's not playing, but pick him up anyway and shelf him for a week and then start him the following week because Houston's schedule is not that hard. It really isn't.
And Singletary has been getting more and more touches and more field time every week. And I think you might be seeing kind of a changing of the guard here a little bit because, you have to remember this is an entirely new coaching staff. Dameon Pierce was the guy they inherited. They went out and signed Singletary as a free agent. So they like Singletary. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone out and gotten him. So maybe you're starting to see the leaves, read the tea leaves, as they say, and Singletary could be your main guy. He might be better in pass protection. I haven't looked that up. He might be better at keeping CJ Stroud upright, and that's pretty important to a rookie quarterback.
Somebody had a big week. His first big week of the year is Kareem Hunt of the Browns.
Yeah.
He's somebody I have in a few leagues, especially in our dynasty league. I have him kind of shelved away. I'm going to start him this week. I think they play, and he had 47 yards rushing with a touchdown, the longest 16 yards, and he also gets passes, which is great. What do you think about Kareem Hunt picking him up this week?
I'm a fan of it. As you know, I say all the time, these backup running backs who come in and do great, Kyron Williams, who we have to talk about because he's hurt, Jerome Ford,
next. Yep.
They were the backups for a reason because they're not developed to carry the majority of the team, like to be the bell cow running back. Jerome Ford might be starting to wear down. You see that with Tony Pollard, bigger than anybody. Like this guy was electric as the complementary running back last year with Zeke Elliott doing all the plotting stuff between the tackles. Now that he's being asked to run between the tackles too, suddenly he's kind of disappeared. So Jerome Ford needs help. And Kareem Hunt is a guy who we've seen be really successful in the NFL before. So, I think the Browns are learning that Jerome Ford can't be a 20 carry, 20 touch a week guy. So they need somebody who can get 12 to 15 touches. And you give Kareem Hunt 4 or 5 balls out of the backfield and 9 to 10 carries. And guess what? You're going to have a productive fantasy football player.
I like it. Let's talk about the Rams. You brought up Kyren with an N at the end.
Kyren
Williams is hurt. He has an ankle sprain. I don't think he's going to play for a couple of weeks. Tell me who I should pick up to take his place.
You should pick up. Is it Zach Evans is the guy you should pick up there?
Zach Evans, rookie from Old Miss, Casey Scheinfeld.
Yeah.
And Zach Evans, they also, what they signed? They brought back into the building is Darrell Henderson. Remember him with the braids?
Oh, did they?
They brought him back. I don't know if he'll play or not, but he's in the building. Elvis is in the building.
Because Ronnie Rivers is hurt too, the primary backup.
He's missing multiple weeks too. That's what I'm trying to tell you is it could be the Zach Evans show. And the Rams are playing great football. The Rams were my pick in our suicide pool. I took the Rams and I was smoking a cigar by halftime. But it's the Rams are not. Everybody predicted them to be a bad team, including myself. They're not a bad team. And with Cutback and with that receiving core. And now, who knows if Evans can do it? But what do you say about Zach Evans?
Well, I was not a Mizzou fan, so I don't know a lot about him. I know I've been listening to some people talk, and they speak pretty highly of him. So you can do a lot worse. The Rams offense has been really, really good. As much as we didn't think that before this season. Puka and Cooper Kupp are coexisting pretty well. Matt Stafford is throwing the ball all over the place, and they've had really productive play from their running backs with Kyren Williams all year long. So I would give the guy a shot, especially if you're running out there with a Rashad White or who's the Carolina guy, Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, very disappointing.
Some of these guys who haven't been really effective, I don't see why you don't give them a shot.
Okay, I'll say running back. You tell me yay or nay to pick up on tonight. Ready?
Okay.
Justice Hill.
Nay.
Craig Reynolds.
Oh, Craig Reynolds. I'm going to say
Detroit.
yay to Craig Reynolds because you're talking Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Tyjae Spears.
I love Tyjae Spears. I think, you know me, I'm on the record a couple of weeks ago saying I think Derrick Henry's not a productive running back this year.
Andre Ingram of the Arizona Cardinals.
Deontay Ingram. Yes.
Thank you. Do you pick him up? He had 10 carries, Casey, at 40 yards.
Yeah. I mean, and Josh Dobbs has proven effective enough to keep an offense relevant. So
I root for Josh Dobbs. How about that? I root for the guy. He's a journeyman. He's been around in the league for many years. And, he wants to win. He runs for his life every game. I mean, he's out there rushing yards. I mean, he'll get hit. He doesn't care. He just wants to be a starting quarterback. I have no idea when Murray's coming back. Do you have any clue when Kyrie? Do you have any clue?
They were estimating when I was reading stuff over the offseason somewhere around week 8 or week 9. So who knows?
It's like you paid that guy all that money and he's gone. And he go back to baseball. I mean, please. Let's talk wide receivers, Case. I'll talk about the guy that you've been high on the past few weeks. Is Rashee Rice. Tell me why I should pick him up.
Well, he's leading the Chiefs wide receivers in targets, yards, and touchdowns. I mean,
that's a good reason.
He's Pat Mahomes' favorite wide receiver target. Obviously, he's not his favorite target.
Some guy that's dating Britney. I almost said Britney Spears. Is that fairly? Taylor Swift.
The issue with Rashee Rice is he's only out there like 50% of the offense. But Watson just got hurt and is going to be out for a few weeks. So they're going into a matchup with the Chargers. They've allowed the most fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. So it seems like a no-brainer to target Rashee Rice. If Mahomes trusts him, and as a rookie, it says something that Andy Reid is putting him out there because Andy Reid is notorious for not trusting rookie or giving rookie wide receivers a chance. I drafted him in most of my leagues as a wide receiver 5 or 4, he's got wide receiver 2 upside. So
there you go. Tell me who else I should pick up wide receiver. Go.
Wide receivers, other wide receivers. How about Josh Downs? He's still
tell me why. Colts.
He's still under 60% owned. Gardner Minshew had a terrible game against the Jaguars last week, but that doesn't mean he's a terrible fantasy quarterback for his wide receivers. Downs has the second most targets and the second most receiving yards for the Colts this year, playing out of the slot. Alec Pierce just got hurt, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. That's some additional routes. He might even run on the outside. I like Josh Downs.
What do you think about Curtis Samuel, Casey? 17. He had 19 targets in the past 3 games for the Washington Commanders.
And he has a touchdown 3 straight weeks, I think, too.
He does have touchdowns. You're right.
And so Sam Howell likes him. Sam Howell can find him in the slot there. He's your prototypical slot receiver. Ron Rivera brought him with him from Carolina when he took the job. So he knows the offensive system well, and Rivera trusts him. Jahan Dotson had a better week this past week, but he's been pretty inconsistent or inept in some ways up to this point. And if you have, let's see who's on a bye this week. DeAndre Hopkins is on a bye. Adam Thielen, who's been saving people's seasons, on a bye. You got Nico Collins on a bye this week. You got CeeDee Lamb. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Chase and Higgins and Boyd all on byes this week. That's a lot of big name receivers. So why would you not look to somebody like Curtis Samuel?
I like it. Let's talk quarterback position. Somebody that I like is Thurston Howell the third, or we can call him Sam Howell. Either way, he plays for your Washington Commanders, and he's been on fire. I know he makes mistakes. I get it, but he beat Atlanta last week. He had 250. This guy, 67% completion rate, which is good. His 9 touchdowns, his quarterback rating is 90. He's owning, like, I would say, I think 40% in leagues right now. Do you pick him up and start him against the Giants?
I'd start almost
or do you start
anybody
Cousins against the 49ers? Who do you start? Go.
I would start. That's actually, wow. I would probably start Howell against the Giants because the Giants, I mean, they played well against the Bills. I'll give them credit for that. As a Giants fan, their defense stepped up. They ended both halves with the ball on the 1 yard line and unable to get it in. If they had kicked a field goal in each of those situations, they win the game. But Howell has 4 legitimate passing targets, and Brian Robinson out of the backfield, Antonio Gibson out of the backfield too, who can both catch the ball out of the backfield. You got Dotson, you got scary Terry McLaurin, you got Curtis, and you got Logan Thomas. Who's been one of the better tight ends. I think he's tight end 6.
When he's healthy, he's terrific. It's just the guy goes on the DL.
And the bonus of Howell too is he can run a little bit, so he can get you 40 yards in the running in the rushing side of that. The Giants are 1-5 without a lot of prospects of getting better. So
no hope for the future. The future doesn't look bright in New York for the Giants.
I would love for them to target a wide receiver eventually that they could play on the outside, but that's my own personal soapbox. So I do like Sam Howell. Somebody else I really like though, and don't shoot the messenger, but Desmond Ridder has put together consecutive 300+ yard passing games and finished as a top 10 fantasy quarterback 3 times this season already. They added Van Jefferson. Maybe they're going to throw the ball more. Kyle Pitts has a touchdown and 130 yards in the last 2 games. Drake London has over 200 yards in the last 2 games. Maybe they're showing some signs of life in Atlanta. Bijan, for some reason, this baffles me. I think he had 9 carries last week.
No carries. He did catch the ball a few times, but
it's like Arthur Smith is notorious for handing the ball off 40 times and running it and passing it 15.
I don't get it.
And suddenly he's not doing it, but it bodes well for Desmond Ritter's fantasy value. As much as it hurts Bijan's fantasy value, Desmond Ridder is the beneficiary. If you have one of those bye quarterbacks, if you have, Burrow, Prescott, I hope you don't have Tannehill or Zach Wilson.
No, you're in last place anyway.
CJ Stroud. You could do a lot worse or Josh Fields. We didn't talk about him.
Josh Fields broke his thumb.
He's going to be out for a while.
I mean, on his throwing hand. I mean, it's not like his other hand. I mean, they say he's like questionable. I mean, I don't know.
Look,
I want to see what happens tomorrow.
When Drew Brees hurt his thumb a few years back and he missed like 3 games because you just can't grip the ball.
Grip the ball.
I'm not an orthopedic surgeon.
But you play one on TV. I know that.
But I've listened to a lot of them over the years talk fantasy football. And
yes,
I think it's pretty important for a quarterback to have a strong grip on the ball.
You think so? I know. You can just hold it with 2 fingers and throw it, right, Case?
So Justin Fields finally was coming alive a little bit. Goodbye. And now
I love Justin Fields. A horrible fantasy game last week. I mean, that game was like low scoring, and nobody was looking. Everybody was watching the game like I thought there's going to be touchdowns.
Yeah, because of Bears Vikings, they thought it was going to be a shootout. But I think what the unfortunate thing for Justin Fields is, I think it means he's done in Chicago as the quarterback. Because if he misses 4 weeks, they're going to be 1-8 by then, 1-9, and they're going to be looking at the first 2 picks of the draft. And so, who's not going to take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. with the first 2 picks? You wouldn't?
No, I would. I take both those guys. Yeah. I agree.
All right, go ahead.
This quarterback, Casey, who is eligible to be picked up on waivers, he's below 60%. He had 300 yards last week. The next 4 games he plays at home against Jacksonville, at Indianapolis, at home against the Bears, at Minnesota. The next 4 games.
Jared Goff or
no? It's Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. New Orleans is playing the NFC North on a run. I figured it was an NFC North team because you'd mentioned the Bears and the Vikings.
No, I mean they're playing easy defenses. I think. I mean, at home Jacksonville. I mean, those are all good teams to play.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge Derek Carr fan,
I
but
know
those
you're not.
matchups are great. I don't think he has the arm strength to be a true NFL quarterback anymore. Like, did you see the play? He tried to throw it away, but couldn't even get it out of bounds, and it got intercepted because he just didn't have the arm strength to get it there.
I did
So,
see that play. Yeah, watched it on Red Zone. It was, he had over 300 yards. He looks great at times and he looks horrible at times. Olave has not got the ball that much. He's a big disappointment this year, fantasy. He's on my list to like get rid of. I just don't feel like getting him the ball enough.
yeah, but he's a talented wide receiver. Rashid Shaheed is a talented wide receiver. So,
Okay, Case, what tight ends are you looking at? What tight ends do you like?
what tight ends do I like? I have it here. Hold on a second.
The only one I like that I watched him play and he actually gets the ball a lot is Michael Meyer of the Raiders.
Yeah, he started to come on. He was pretty non-existent for them the first 3 or 4 weeks, but it seems that Garoppolo and who was it that was his quarterback before that?
O'Donnell.
Like him. So, I mean, I really like Dalton Schultz, but he's on a bye this week.
He's on a bye this week.
That's not a great pickup. You know who I'm going to recommend, and it doesn't make sense because he's not even the best tight end on the team. Jonnu Smith of Atlanta. Everybody talks about Kyle Pitts and get Kyle Pitts the ball, but Jonnu Smith quietly has, I think, as many receptions and has just in the last 4 weeks is averaging 60 yards a game and has a touchdown in there. So it's crazy. He actually has scored more fantasy points in the last 4 weeks than Kyle Pitts, 38 to 33.8 in PPR leagues.
And Kyle Pitts did have a touchdown last week, and he did score, did look pretty good. I'm still not on the Kyle Pitts bandwagon, but I am keeping an eye on him. I don't know if I would trade for him right now.
And since we mentioned him earlier, Logan Thomas is under 60% owned. Just so you know.
I think Washington does score points. I do think they throw the ball. Riverboat Ron Rivera, he's the coach of Washington, who I like. He actually does like to throw the ball and take a lot of chances, which is great for fantasy. Let's talk defenses. My defense to pick up this week is the Cleveland Browns. They're playing great. And
I mean, they're not scoring a tremendous amount of fantasy points, but they're stopping people, which is what matters.
I mean, let's look at the matchups coming up this week. That's on Thursday night, Case. I know you love watching football on Thursday night. It's Jacksonville. Jacksonville's on like either from London or they're on Thursday night. I mean, they're on like all the time. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know if, in all seriousness, I don't know if he's playing. It's a question mark, another big question mark. So if you're Trevor Lawrence owner, you better make sure he's playing because his ankle, I think it's his ankle. I think it's pretty sore, and he's coming back kind of quick after 4 days. They're playing the Saints. I think Derek Carr is going to have a field day. I really do. They're at New Orleans. They're indoors, Casey. Fantasy wise, I would if you have Derek Carr, start him. If you don't, try to pick him up. Especially if your quarterback has a bye week. And ETN looked great on Sunday, Case. I mean, who else in that game, fantasy wise, do you want to start?
Rams.
No, it's Jaguars. Do you like Calvin Ridley? What do you think about Ridley?
I love Calvin Ridley. I don't think you can trust him right now. And depending on if it's not Trevor Lawrence, who's their backup? I don't even know.
I know they have Nathan Rourke, who's the CFL guy they signed to their practice squad, who looked great. But I mean, I don't know who their legit second string. I forgot who it is. I forgot who their second string guy is. But
New Orleans. I mean, based on what we're saying, you got to like Derek Carr. You got to like. I mean, Alvin Kamara is going to break down eventually, but he hasn't yet. So ride it while he's playing. That's great.
Yeah, and he does catch the ball a lot.
Yeah,
even though his rushing isn't that great.
I think if you drafted Olave, you're probably stuck with him, especially with so many teams on a bye. And Rashid Shaheed turned 2 receptions into 80-some yards and a touchdown, which is what he does. So
that's all that guy does. He's so fast. And another receiver I like, we didn't talk about him, and I saw him with the Raiders, and the Raiders are starting to throw him the ball, is Tucker. This guy he
Okay.
reminds me of Tariq Hill. I mean, he's fast.
Speaking of the Raiders wide receivers, what do you do with Devontae Adams only getting 5 targets in a game?
He's hurt. It's a decoy. I actually had lunch on Saturday with his agent, and they're doing a big basketball, like a celebrity game, like the weekend of the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So he wanted me to help, but basically it's a celebrity basketball game in Vegas because that's where the Super Bowl is, and he's going to raise money for his charity, which is a great thing. I'll have more information later. Cool. But he told me he's not 100%. I mean,
that's the only reason that makes sense to me.
Yeah, he's a decoy.
This guy's used to getting 30 to 35% of the target share.
I mean, he's doing cardio out there. That's all.
Yeah.
So I'll mention some games, and you tell me if you like these games for fantasy purposes. Okay. There's this really low-scoring team called the Miami Dolphins. They're playing Sunday night against the Eagles.
That'll be fun to watch. Well, the entire Miami passing offense. The Eagles passing defense is
horrendous.
Is in tatters because of injuries. So you got to love Waddle and Hill and Tua and Mustard.
Hill got hurt.
Mustard. What?
I have no information on Hill. He got hurt. They took him out of the game. He was in the tent.
He's going to be fine.
Waddle.
He's on
pace.
Waddle
had a touchdown.
He's on pace for 2,300 yards this year. He's not going to stop.
Did you see the owner of the Eagles, the owner of the Dolphins was doing the Waddle dance like when he scored.
Nice.
I don't know if you saw that. It was funny. I thought of you. Yeah. So you would start the whole Miami offense, which I strongly say yes to, and the Eagles Swift.
Well, I think you have to look with Miami able to put 40 points on the board against anybody, you have to imagine it's going to be a passing game for the Eagles too. So Swift is the receiving back. You got to put AJ Brown out there. You got to go with Jalen Hurts, and you got to go with Devonta Smith. Even though Smith's been down, you kind of have to go with him. I'd even throw Dallas Goedert in there this week, even though
he's been getting the ball case. I watch the Eagles once in a while, and I do see Goddard getting involved in that offense. And I agree with you. I think that's going to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. What do you think?
It should be. I mean,
I'll give you. Here's another one, Casey. This is going to be high scoring. You ready?
Yes.
LA Chargers at Kansas City. The Chargers defense that you saw last night isn't.
Justin Herbert has to have a better game than he had.
Oh, did he watch that? Did you see he missed Allen?
Keenan Allen had so much room between him.
I mean, Dr. Dan Ratner could have thrown that. I mean, and he's not that coordinated.
I could have scored on that if I
could have.
I had
yeah,
so much
I
room.
mean, Ray Charles could have scored, but I mean, again, the Chargers. I guess you start the usual. I mean, you start the usual guys. I guess
Eckler, yeah, and Herbert. I don't know if you start Josh Palmer or you start.
Palmer got some targets. I saw that. Just Herbert looked awful.
Didn't get much at all.
I didn't see him targeted that much at all.
Yeah.
They didn't say his name that much. Case I watched it. I mean, Jared Everett did get his name called, and he did score a touchdown. So there you go. Kansas City. I guess you start your Rice guy. You start Mahomes, and you start Isaiah Pacheco. Of course, I mean he's having a great year, and of course Kelsey. But are there any other receivers you would start on the KC side?
No. I mean, look, they were targeting Kadarius Toney pretty regularly in their last game. So I might throw Toney as a dart throw out there, especially if I had a lot of receivers unavailable to me, either injury or bye week. I might throw Kadarius Toney because he's a gadget player that Andy Reid seems to like using.
I have a question for you. The Buffalo Bills are in New England. How is New England going to play against? How is New England going to score against Buffalo? And what is their? I mean, does New England have a chance to beat them? I mean, I don't think they have a chance. They have no chance of beating Buffalo this weekend. What do you think? I mean, I'm just thinking about it, and the way that offense looked, it's just
New England. Yeah, they're well. Look, we thought I would have told you the Browns with PJ Walker at starting quarterback had no chance to beat the 49ers. So I'm going to say there's a 95% chance that Buffalo's going to win, but it's in New England. They didn't put up a great offensive game against the Giants the other night. So who knows? But if I had to bet, if I was betting money line, not that we encourage gambling here. If I was betting money line, I would take Buffalo.
Here's another team that I think is going to score a lot of points, but Vegas doesn't think that. The over-under's 37. I think the Raiders and Bears are going to be a shootout. How about that? I think the backup for the Bears will throw the ball. I forgot his name, but he had a touchdown pass last week. And I think the Raiders are going to just tee off on the Bears defense. I think it's going to be high scoring. I really do. And I think with the Raiders, I think we'll see some good numbers from Josh Jacobs.
Badgent is the backup for Chicago.
And his dad was arm wrestling champion of the world. Did you know that, Casey Schonfeld?
No.
It's a little stat I found
Although
out.
I would love to see, as a Penn State fan, Trace McSorley is on their practice squad.
Oh, yeah, McSorley. Remember him? He was in college for 20 years.
I'd like to see Trace McSorley get a run at him.
Do you think like the Denver Broncos can do well against Green Bay this weekend?
I think they have talent. That's the weird thing, it's.
I mean, I don't know who I would start from that team. I guess I don't know. I think Green Bay to me is just not the greatest team to have fantasy players on. They never perform that great. They're not consistent. And then we go to Denver, and I'm saying to myself, who do I start on the Denver team? Who's going to be their high scoring guy? I don't trust Russell Wilson. He looks awful. I would just stay away from that game if I could, I would stay away from that game totally. And then the team that I'm excited to watch is the Rams are at home against the Steelers. I think the Rams are going to light up the Steelers. I feel the Rams fantasy wise, start every Ram you have, even Evans, a running back. I mean, I think the Rams are just going to run all over.
I would play the Rams defense.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would too.
I think the Steelers offense is.
And when the Rams are winning, in which they are, the fans come out. When they're losing, they sell their tickets to the team that's coming to town, like the Chargers did yesterday with all the Dallas Cowboy fans at the game. I don't know if you watched that, but it was like a Dallas home game. It's kind of embarrassing just to watch a team get all that yelling and screaming and no one at the game. So the big game is Monday night, and then we'll go. Is the Niners are away at the Vikings. Casey, who do you start fantasy wise in that game?
Niners and Vikings. You start Brock Montana.
Like you said his name correctly. Okay.
Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I think you start. I would go with Jordan Mason, but I could understand if somebody felt more comfortable with Elijah Mitchell. If Deebo Samuel is back, they say he's day-to-day. My concern about San Francisco's offense is Trent Williams' injury more than
all-pro offensive
all-world left tackle. He's the blind side for Brock. If he goes down, that really hurts him. But outside of that, I'd run the gamut with them. On the Minnesota side, you got to start Kirk Cousins, I think. I wouldn't start Alexander Madison. I would start Hawkinson. I'd start KJ Osborne, and I'd start Jordan Addison.
I like it. And I think, honestly, Minnesota can upset them. I think the Vikings could be pumped up for that game. I think they can upset the 49ers. What's the spread? It's 6.5 points. I mean, I feel the Vikings always have like a great game once a season or two great games. I think this is going to be their great. I really feel like Cousins is going to push it and they'll win that game. I don't know why. I just got that feeling like they did last week when the Jets upset the Eagles. But I guess we'll go unless you have anything else you want to say, Casey.
Nope. I think we covered it. Yeah, we're at that. Look, it's hard this week to make waiver wire recommendations because we don't know the status of a lot of these players yet. You don't know how long CMC is going to be down. You don't know if Deebo Samuel's coming back. You don't know. Tuesdays are tough, man.
Yeah, but you got to make your decision tonight.
I know. I'm not saying it's
because you can't sit around and wait for it to come out tomorrow when more information comes out because we don't know. I mean, the official injury report comes out tomorrow.
Right.
And And if they start practicing tomorrow too.
Like we talk about Craig Reynolds, but if Jahmyr Gibbs is suddenly probable, does that hurt his value? Well, we won't know. He's missed 2 weeks, so
I think Gibbs is back. I think.
I don't know. That's what I mean. There's so much unknown. We don't know the extent of some of these
Detroit,
injuries.
Who's Detroit playing? Detroit plays. They're away in Baltimore. And Baltimore at home always plays good defense. That's 2 games in a row for Detroit too, which is tough. Talking about Detroit, I mean, NFC wise, I have them just as good as the Eagles. How about that?
Yeah, I think I still have the 49ers a little bit better when CMC is on the field.
I do too.
But then, yeah, I would put Detroit right there with the Eagles right now. And if CMC is hurt, I don't know how much lower they are than the 49ers at this point.
I think home field advantage is going to be a big plus in the playoffs for the NFC teams.
Yeah, I mean, if we know how well Jared Goff plays at home. If you give him a dome for all of his games at home, that's great. If he has to travel through Philadelphia or through San Francisco, those are 2 very tough places to play.
I mean, how great was that defense against Tampa Bay last week for Detroit? I mean, they look good.
I say it is Tampa Bay, but yeah, I mean, and they had 7 sacks in Green Bay on the night, the primetime game that they played there. They shut down Kansas City opening night of the season. So Detroit is real.
Got it. Well, I think that will do it, Case. I'm Ross the Boss. That's Casey, Vlad to the Bone, Shinefold. We'll see you guys Thursday at 4:30. We'll talk strategy and what you should be doing for all these bye weeks and all these teams that have weeks off.
Just so you understand, he meant 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific.
Yeah, 1:30. Yeah,
Ross is in La La Land, so it's 1:30 where he is.
Yeah, 1:30 here, 4:30 where Case is at on Thursday, and then we'll be here the same time next Tuesday. But on Thursday, we'll be there with Dr. Dan Ratner, and we'll talk strategy. I'm Ross the Boss. That's Casey Shinefold. We'll see you guys next week.
Good night, everybody.